Hello one and all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Maximilian, and today we're going to talk about the Cancer full moon, which is exact today on 24 degrees of Cancer. It's quite a dynamic full moon. It's of course a sign that the moon rules. So once a year when we have that full moon in Cancer about this time, late December or January, it's a very emotional moon. And it's also a very potent lunation today, a very potent full moon in what will be a very, very, very potent year, which is still an understatement. 2025 will begin something which will not just wrap up cycles that have been in the air since 2018, which of course includes a whole 2020 story, but it's also the beginning of the next, especially 2 years, 2026 and 7, which will probably be some of the most significant ones in most of our lives. Feels a bit daunting to say that. It will be daunting years. And even though this full moon is very dynamic, we're still a bit in a lull in the beginning of the year, right? It might be the beginning of the calendar year, but astrologically, Capricorn is reaching the mountain peak, and Aquarius and Pisces are really meant to dissolve the field, dissolve the energetic, and especially Aquarius, the mental field, Pisces, the emotional astral field of the entire journey of the previous 10 months or 12 months, so that the true new astrological year can begin with the, I want to say, spring equinox here in the northern hemisphere, the Aries equinox, 21st of March. It also might still feel a bit like we're in this lull because Mars being retrograde slows our will, Mars, our desire, how we align our actions with our will, or what we desire, what we crave, what we want to achieve, what we want to push forwards to. The retrograde of Mars slows all of that down, asks us to look within, turns that energy within, can bring up a lot of old, unresolved, now Mars in Cancer, emotions in regards to where and how we feel powerless to truly assert our will and our own agency. So that puts an even greater damper on what is usually also a bit of a slow month of January, with the energy Capricorn wants to stabilize, it's crystallizing, it's becoming a bit rigid, it's not this forward-pushing energy. Anyhow, 2025 will bring a lot of forward push soon enough. Please don't feel like you're missing out on anything if you don't feel like energy is moving forward. Once it will, we'll barely be able to catch our breaths. Anyhow, for this Cancer full moon, I still want to make a tiny announcement beforehand. I'm starting my first course, and I'm so excited about this. It's called Astrology Fundamentals because it's not basics. It's truly everything rests on the fundamentals we're learning. So I'll be teaching you everything about all the signs, the planets, the aspects, the houses, and how to bring it all together. So how you personally can truly learn to read your own birth chart or meditate on that and the psychic material it mirrors, the karmic journey you're in, how to understand time in a completely new way, but also how to understand yourself in a completely new way. And hopefully also other people, friends, partners, lovers, co-workers, people close to you, to truly get a deeper grasp and understanding, and with that also compassion, insight, and ability to connect instead of projecting our own images of how we feel inside onto others. Astrology is truly the most amazing tool I've ever come across. I'm beyond passionate about it. It keeps on blowing my own mind. The more I work with it, the more I see clients every week, and the more I see the trends it's playing out every day in my own life and the life of people close to me, the more my own mind is blown. And so I finally feel ready to truly give this on. I've been waiting for some years to truly want to settle into that knowingness and into a deep understanding and grasp in a way that felt like I had truly reached the fundamentals in a healthy way. So the time is now, though, and on the 22nd of January, I'll be beginning the course of it's a 7-week long journey, and I'd be so excited if some of you might feel like joining and learning and unraveling this mystical, starry art of time and poetry and the psyche and the heart and human consciousness together with me, if you feel like embarking on this journey together with me. So you'll be able to find all the information down below. We're beginning on 22nd of January, like I said. And yeah, would be so nice to see some of you there with me. Anyhow, let's go to the full moon. I'm going to pull up the chart actually so you can see it and hopefully make a bit of a better sense of it. So as you can see, as always, we've got the sun opposite the moon, and this full moon holds something special, which is that it's conjunct Mars. Mars retrograde here has just returned to Cancer a couple of days ago. It began the year with its opposition to Pluto, and now it's back in Cancer, making also a conjunction to this full moon. Why does my pen keep on turning off? Now it should stay. So this is one of the bigger markers of this full moon, and it really speaks about how, what I touched on earlier, how emotional realities, Cancer, which often stem from our own inner child, from our family, from our upbringing, even hereditary from our ancestors and things that have been passed through generations, right? All of these threads of family is Cancer, including the parts of us that are unconsciously being played out over generations, where the insight and reflective nature of the moon ruling Cancer, the reflective nature of our emotions, allows us to look within, look into the past, look into past experiences, something that might have happened half an hour ago or a week ago or 20 years ago. The reflective nature of the moon is the reflective nature of our consciousness that can go into the past and see things from a different angle, see things through a new light, like that cutting side of a crystal, right? How it's cut. And the Cancer energy allows us to see new dimensions, new fractals of past experiences, bringing wisdom, bringing feminine, intuitive understanding to things, and hopefully in a compassionate, soft and caring way, and a loving way, which truly also allows us to unbind karma, as it were, because we can come to a place of forgiveness and understanding, of seeing where somebody or something else has been coming from, maybe with their own unresolved emotional issues, with their own wounds, with their own family drama and karma, which brought out certain dynamics, brought certain situations into reality. So Cancer is this unconditional love which we are learning to channel, right? Cancer on a more archetypal level is also the great mother goddess, the divine mother, the absolute feminine, right? The mother of the universe. And with the Cancer full moon, we want to, at least with a tiny fractal of our being, with a tiny shard of our psyche, enter this kind of consciousness and allow this pure, unconditional divine love, which ideally every mother should have for a child, which of course is sadly not a reality on planet Earth and human beings, but which on an archetypal level, the divine mother of the universe, of all of creation, the feminine principle, the Shakti, has for all of the creation. And so we ourselves can tune into that and learn to channel that divine, compassionate, forgiving love for our own self, for our own inner child, but also for all the people that have been contributing to the emotional stories that we play out. Mars, having just come back into Cancer now, reveals where and how unresolved emotional stories, unconscious emotional patterns that we're playing out have been blocking our ability to assert ourselves, have been blocking our ability to be true to what our emotions tell us, Cancer, but also the other side of Cancer, what we truly emotionally need. Cancer is all about safety and emotions and needs. When you talk about Venus, you can talk about desires in the sense of like, oh, I desire that and that would be nice. But with Cancer, we talk about base level of emotional needs. which can't be neglected or bypassed. Whenever those needs are being not met, we don't feel safe, or part of our being might not feel safe. We might have everything around us, our body might be healthy, we might be living in a country free from war and strife. We might have friends and families, partners that love us, and still part of our being might not feel safe because somewhere some emotional need is not being met. Of course, we are interdependent beings, which are meant to form close emotional connections to others, where ideally we mutually support each other to fulfill mutual needs. But on a very deep fundamental level, of course, we're also learning with Cancer energy to meet our own needs. And this is not to go in any way whatsoever into the spiritual bypassism of like, oh, you shouldn't have any needs, and oh, you gotta love yourself more, and then you'll attract the right lover or person. All of those things, they talk about a deep bypass of our own emotional reality. And again, putting blame and shame and guilt onto maybe a traumatized part of ourselves, a traumatized person outside from us, for not being able to meet all of their own needs by themselves, which of course on an ultimate level we can't be. We are interdependent beings. Still, there is something to be said about going within and learning to find the clarity of what our emotional needs are, and then learning to act on, asserting, pushing into reality, making things happen through our actions, just like that symbol, that glyph of Mars, right? You see it with the arrow pointing out. It's pushing out into external reality in order to create change. So asserting our emotional needs and bringing the courage in to speak truly from our emotions and our heart, even and especially where we might feel vulnerable or hurt, where there's old wounds and pains that might have blocked us from being able to express our emotions, and in that way also find emotional fulfillment with other people in our relationships, which again, Cancer dynamic often relate back to deep family stuff, right? Which we continually play out all of our lives. Even if we don't talk to our parents or family since decades, we will never be free from the imprint that we received through our upbringing. Cancer, ruled by the moon, is of course one of the most emotional moons of the year. But the contrast, which I briefly pointed out earlier, is that Mars was just opposite Pluto at the beginning of the year, bringing in all of these dynamics where we might have felt powerless, which is a Pluto dynamics. Pluto always talks about power, re-empowerment, and powerlessness. We can only re-empower ourselves and gain back a sense of power and agency once we truly confront, and often in a very uncomfortable, shadowy dynamic, have to sit with the parts of ourselves that feel powerless or helpless or impotent. Mars being opposite that, Pluto, a story that will continue until end of April, in which we already saw the Martian aggression play out very strongly in Syria with the sudden change, the military push there, with the martial law declared in South Korea by the Prime Minister, if I'm not mistaken, and also the CEO shooting in New York, which all happened around the time of the first opposition from Mars to Pluto, right? Mars, our own agency, our own drive. Pluto, where we feel powerless to greater forces, especially Pluto in Aquarius, collective forces, collective dynamics, social dynamics, what can bring out immense anger and immense fire, immense agency also, to want to push through, sometimes also in a destructive or aggressive way, right? That Mars energy. Anyhow, for this full moon, these dynamics are deeply highlighted, even more so because just before the full moon was full, today on Monday, it would have also made a perfect square to Chiron on 19 degrees, right? So this full moon dynamic, it's still in a square to Chiron from both angles, bringing up these points of pain, of a loss of agency, right? Chiron in Aries is ruled by that Mars. On another level, and also super, super interesting, this full moon really talks about like an emotional breaking point, an emotional opening into what the rest of the year will entail. On one level, this is signaled by the lunar nodes just having shifted from Aries and Libra into Pisces and Virgo. Here's the South Node in Virgo, the North Node in Pisces. This just happened yesterday or 2 days ago. And so for the last 1.5 years, we've been having this huge collective focus on our relationship dynamics, on Aries and Libra, peace and war, on agency and willpower and my way or the highway, Aries, on taking up the courage and boldness to fiercely follow our own path, even if it means having to walk alone, but also on where and how do I feel balanced or out of balance in my relationships? Where are dynamics equal or not equal? So we're really wrapping up with this full moon many of these lessons of the last 1.5 years, which would have put such a huge collective focus on our relationships and relationship dynamics. Aries is all about self and me. Aries says I am. And Libra is all about the other, the mirror, the relationship. Who am I when you are you? Right? Who are you when I am I? How can we balance that? Now the nodes shifting into Pisces and Virgo, implying that over the next 1.5 years, most of the eclipses will play out in both of these signs. And we're really beginning a whole new collective karmic lesson here of the North Node in Pisces. Where and how can I follow my intuition, have faith and trust and surrender, even in the face of uncertainty and the cosmic chaos, especially as our planet and the human collective will go through massive changes over the next 2-3 years, with the outer planet changing signs, Saturn and Neptune into Aries. Between Pisces and Aries, they'll be dancing for the next 1.5 years, and Uranus into Gemini. Right? So there will be so much uncertainty in the air. And the North Node in Pisces talks so much about where and how can I have enough trust in myself, which the full moon here in Cancer signals, trust in my own capabilities as well, which is the sun in Capricorn. How do I hold up myself? How do I stand in my own integrity fully? How do I take full responsibility for my being and don't go into victim consciousness where I project my emotional reality out onto other people and make other people responsible for my emotions? But also where and how, because I've got that trust in myself, I've got enough ability to surrender control and trust in the uncertainty of the unfolding of cosmic events, which are super mysterious, right? Including the cosmic events of our own personal life and our own personal journey. And with the South Node in Virgo, a huge mental unraveling also of where and how we have clung to concepts of perfectionism or control or micromanagement, thinking that we need to have it all together, and judging ourselves for where and how we feel we might not. The North Node in Pisces will teach us so much also about this unconditional love and unconditional presence and unconditional healing energy. The fact that Mars just now in Cancer retrograded back to Cancer now also brings in a trine to Neptune here at the end of Pisces, deepening these dynamics of where and how do I have to surrender control in order to gain a true sense of agency? Where and how do I have to surrender old desires and ways of acting, where I thought I'm acting in a healthy, aligned way, but now I have to find out this is not bringing me any further whatsoever, and I've got to let go in order to be able to get back a sense of agency. Only by truly realizing how much we're not in control can we even consciously come into a state of accepting the part of us that at least seems like it can control a part of our own life's journey. We're all more in the passenger seat than the driver's seat, which is of course not something that our Western mind and consciousness likes to admit so much or get into. And at the same time, it's vitally important that we think and believe and act like we are fully in the driver's seat of our own life. But the North Node in Pisces over the next 1.5 years will teach us so much, how much we're just in the passenger seat and can enjoy this trip of our life without giving up a sense of agency or responsibility, but more in the cosmic, ground, metaphysical sense of seeing the mystery of life play out, the mystery of how we form connections, of why things happen in our life, in our reality, in our relationships, in our whole life path, the way that they do happen. Right? So this Mars trining Neptune for this full moon also implies a deep sense of rest and restfulness and exhaustion that might be in the field. Cancer is all about emotional retreat, an emotional retreat into our own shell, into our own cave, into our own home, into a pillow and a castle of blankets that we want to maybe hide a bit under. And this is maybe the last thing to say about this full moon, is that the Cancer energy mistakenly is often people don't realize, let's frame it like this, people don't realize how much Cancer and Scorpio both mirror those dynamics of shedding skin. This is something that most people associate with the Scorpio archetype and the snake and transformation and death and rebirth. But Cancer, as the animal, the crab in the ocean or by the beach, most of them at some point have to go through a process called molting, where they have to release their outer exoskeleton, the hard crab shell, because it's becoming too small, it's too condensed, and leave that shell, and the new shell is already there, but for the first couple of days it's very, very soft. It's very soft tissue, which of course means they're highly vulnerable to predators. And the same is true for us emotionally, especially with the Cancer full moon. Levels where and how we go through an emotional molting process of having to take that courageous step of really letting go of some emotional shell, of emotional patterns, of an emotional clinging and attachment and identity, knowing that we will feel very vulnerable in that process, but at the same time knowing that if we don't do it, it'll just suffocate us. The emotional pattern, which at some point gave us a sense of comfort or safety, can now become more and more trapping. Is that the right word? Like enclosing us, not in a healthy way anymore, in a way that limits growth, in a way that limits expansion, in a way that limits emotional safety. And letting go of these deep emotional patterns, going into our own little molting process, which again, the full moon aspects Chiron. There's a square to Chiron. There's a deep archetype of healing and wounding, of pain and wounds, which allow us to even come into a dynamic of healing because we can become conscious of them. Deep pain and wounding in regards to Sun in Capricorn. Where and how do I stand on my own? And how do I follow my passion with a sense of purpose and a place in society, and a feeling of that outer safety in the collective through often our work. But also the moon in Cancer, Mars in Cancer, where and how are the deep emotional patterns in regards to emotional connections, to family, to belonging, to house, to home, to land, to safety, to children, to the own inner child, where I've not felt safe in the past, where I've not felt safe enough to express my emotional needs or my emotions in general, where and how this level of impotence or helplessness, Mars-Pluto opposition, could have put a huge level into a lack of faith, the North Node now in Pisces, a lack of a sense of meaning, from that own inner insecurity, projecting that outward and then feeling like God is not taking care of me, the universe, life, the world is not taking care of me, and so I feel fundamentally safe, or I go into negative Virgo mode. I doubt and I worry, but not in a healthy sense anymore, not in a healthy way, but in a way that truly limits this access to spirit, that limits an access to a sense of faith and trust and surrender with that, of fully surrendering ourselves and opening ourselves to life, and instead building up these emotional walls, which negative Cancer expression can be very, very good at. If you ever meet a person and they're just like basically not saying a word, you after 10 years, you can barely like pierce them or like They're always like behind the shell, strong Cancer energy, but in a negative way, right? With like that safety, that container just became a prison. And many people are building these prisons for themselves, believing that they're safe like that, but it prevents the surrender and opening to the universal flow of life, of both Cancer as the divine mother and the mother ocean, but also Pisces as that cosmic ocean of life and love and eternity and light. Right? So, like I said, this full moon is kind of like a turning point, an emotional breaking point, which hopefully will guide us into opening ourselves up to the profound process, which is 2025. We still got a little bit of time, not that much. Mars goes retrograde until middle of February, and then directly from beginning of March, Venus will go retrograde from Aries back to Pisces. But then end of March, end of April, May, June, oh my God, changes will be gigantic. Beyond anything we can comprehend right now, beyond anything we can imagine right now. Especially Neptune going into Aries, closing its entire zodiac cycle of 165 years. Neptune, the realm of imagination and story, of ultimate meaning and transcendence, beginning a whole new journey, shows that there's a new level of reality that's about to step in over the next 1.5 years. And it'll be incredibly exciting, but also incredibly scary. Once that happens, once we pass that threshold, which we can't even imagine fully yet, our ability to surrender and trust into the process, because we feel emotionally safe enough with our own self and our own inner child, and safe enough to express our emotions and emotional needs in a way that they can be met and fulfilled, will be crucial in order to not step into this energy of doubt and fear and anxiety and overwhelm and feeling awash and feeling this absolute lack of meaning, lack of purpose, lack of the collective story, which is also this Neptune shifting from Pisces into Aries. There will be huge new collective stories and collective myths. So for this full moon, take time for yourself, retreat, allow yourself to sit with those uncomfortable emotions, hold them, hold yourself, be loving and kind and caring and nurturing to yourself, just like the ideal mother would be, like the best friend, the greatest lover could be. Give that to yourself as much as you can for this full moon period. And I trust that soon enough energy will pick up and will become incredibly dynamic and quick. And right now, energy is intense, but we're still a bit on a lull period. So also enjoy that. Enjoy the rest it brings. Because once the energy starts really kicking in, come April, May, June, you'll barely able to catch your breath. So enjoy as much rest as you can. And thank you so much for listening. I hope you're navigating these mysterious, beautiful tidal waters, which are very much beyond our ego's control, right? With as much grace as possible, with as much softness and kindness as possible. And thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you soon. And like I said, if you want to join my course or also meet me for one-on-one sessions to see where all of these big shifts will be playing out for you this next year, 1.5 years, I'm always open for one-on-one astrology readings and cosmic guidance. Sending you all my love. Till next time. Bye-bye.